Welcome to the Everyday Awesome Project, where we bring you inspirational stories and game-changing strategies to live your most awesome life. Hey, superstars, welcome back. Polly here.
And Sam. What's up, beautiful humans?
Yo, yo. Today we're talking about little T's and big T's, some of our favorite topics, triggers, trauma,
Ooh.
but tools for triggers and traumas, no less.
Tools for triggers and traumas. Okay, yeah.
I
So
know.
to be clear, this will be a positive episode. We don't want people to run like hell. And we did say that when we were unpacking what we're going to discuss today is like this is a this is a spicy topic for
Mm,
people.
mm,
Mental health crisis is the latest epidemic, right? It's the
mm.
pandemic of our times. And many, many people have, psychological, emotional sufferings going on. So we want to just be honest. We're not therapists, we're not psychotherapists, we're not psychiatrists, all of that kind of stuff.
One of us is a hypnotherapist, but yeah, yeah.
Exactly. And we deal with humans all day long and we
Mm.
deal with ourselves.
So I just thought it was great. One of the things you said before we started on air, which I just want to reiterate, is you, you're, and we're going to talk about this in a future episode. We don't have it all unpacked yet. You're going through this detox for your gut and stuff like that. And they were like, hey, maybe you could get some therapy for that. And you're like, well, look at that. And so you went down the path and you made some outreach, and so far, no luck. And it's like, just for something not simple, but something like, this isn't even a capital T trauma. This is like, hey, I just want some support while I go through this detox. I don't know what's going to happen, right? And
Exactly.
dead end.
Exactly. It really, it's a little bit disheartening. And also, I've worked with other people, and I have family members who have had mental health issues. You also have had this experience. So, like, sometimes we're an advocate for other people and trying to navigate the system and get support and resources, etc. The
Mhm.
system got very bogged down during the pandemic. I mean, the crisis was before that, by the way. So it's not because of the pandemic. But anyway, the systems got really bogged down. And then the advent of everything going online. So now people can just have therapy through an app,
Mhm.
uh, whether there's a human on the other side or not. There's therapeutic apps,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Or they could have therapy through an online portal where maybe they don't even see the person. They talk to the person. Did you know texting therapy was the thing? I
No.
was like, wait, what? Yeah, one of them offered
Huh?
therapy sessions through just texting and messaging,
Hmm.
no actual human contact. So anyway, the world is, it's just the world of therapy, and the resources for mental and emotional health have just radically changed. The landscape has changed.
Yeah.
So there was a little bit of that education that I needed to spend.
Yeah. And well, what we were talking about too is, so I've been sharing since I joined this program. So I'm doing some landmark education, landmarkworldwide.com if you want to look it up. Work there that I started doing 20 years ago with the Landmark Forum, which transformed my life from eating disorder to no eating disorder. And it's like that's how freaking radical this work can be, right? And I've seen it in other people's lives. So reintroduced to it, going through a program around their communication courses specifically. One is Access to Power. The second one is Power to Create. And then I've taken on a year-long program that is basically living those distinctions inside of those programs with a whole team, a whole bunch of other people throughout the region that are also practicing these distinctions that really want to get good at this. And, you and I were talking about it. I was like, my mom was like, why are you doing this landmark study? Like, what are you doing? And it's like, I can't think of a better thing to do with my life than to be a better speaker and communicator and listener. And, just because life is conversations, right?
Yeah, with ourselves and the world.
With ourselves. Yeah. And if things are not being communicated effectively, poorly, we're not communicating with people, blocking people from our life, shutting them out, not talking to that person, or avoiding people, all sorts of symptoms from a root cause of not having the tools and techniques. So this is where we started this conversation. You and I were like, and there's a beautiful body of work that I was sharing with you in Landmark. We call it recreating communication, which is where something, so I was just sharing, I'll just share this and then we'll go into what we really want to talk about, which is sharing with you guys something else that I've learned through my studies and practice in the world of hypnosis and hypnotherapy, which is called the Swish Pattern, taught from a body of work called Neuro-Linguistic Programming, NLP. So NLP is very popular. Tony Robbins is a big proponent of that. So if you know him, then you know he uses NLP and it's great. And it's a therapeutic method. But in Landmark, one of the things we do is called recreating. So I was doing that actually this morning before we recorded this, like literally doing it in my life, where I had a conversation inside of a team. We were creating this little mini team on Monday, and somebody said something like, "I'm too busy, don't have time for this," and I was like hurt. I was hurt by the communication, and I was like, whoa. And what we discover is, when there's a trigger, when there's something there that's like, that didn't just roll off my back, like, oh, she's busy. Okay. It was like, oh, she's busy. And then I feel hurt, sad, rejected, whatever comes up.
Unworthy.
There's a little mini T trauma or something inside of me, right? And so I worked with my coaching partner this morning through the landmark process and they teach us how to recreate, like be with that communication newly instead of in the triggered state that I was in, be with her communication, be over there in her world and understanding it. And it was like, oh, she's just busy. She's prioritizing things in her life. And I was like, oh,
But don't go into the practice
yeah,
yet.
yeah. So anyway.
What we first want to describe to the listener is like, why is this even
Yes.
important?
Thank you.
And when you said the word therapeutic, and we were talking about therapy, I want to just circle back to that really like basic awareness for myself. Like I was like, oh, therapy. Is that a thing I should be looking into? What does that look like now? What is the landscape? What are the opportunities? I'm trying to heal my physical body, which means I need to also be healing my emotional body.
Yeah.
I am a human being, last time I checked. And so therapeutic opportunities are available to me. You're currently in this practice with this course, and you've taken and are, well practiced and versed in other types of therapeutic methodologies, which we want to talk a little bit about that. But for the listener, it's like, it's kind of, and maybe this is just obvious, but couldn't we all use some kind of therapy? And there are so many different types. So we're not casting judgment on this type or that type or another type. Today, we're here to discuss a little bit about, not a little bit, a lot about small T's and big T trauma and some tools that you might use along the process of you understanding why you respond to things the way you respond, how your brain and emotional pathways work when you are around certain people in certain instances or spoken to in a certain way or whatever. So I just wanted to like lay a foundation before we start digging into the garden.
Yeah, and this is under the umbrella of one of you and I's favorite topics is emotional mastery, right?
Exactly.
And so emotional mastery and emotional intelligence is utilizing various tools or perspectives, and I feel like I walk around with a little toolbox that I've collected over decades from personal development work. Therapy, not to knock it, sometimes from what I understand of some I've seen that takes years, like, for eating disorders, for example, the common
Traditional talk therapy.
traditional was 7 years. I was like, oh my God, you're just going to go into like this wait. And I was like, no, you got to like get some tools, right? And so that's where I've picked
7 years, you could be dead. If you have an addiction
it's your
or
freaking
something.
life, man. Right?
Yeah.
So one of the ones I wanted to bring up, and we'll go into it here in a little bit, is like it's a practical tool that you can use
Now.
today. Yeah. Like you don't have to wait 7 years for this gift to unpack it. And it's like, in 7 years, I'll have this trigger trauma, better. It's like, I know, like you'll have it today.
And I was expressing, I've been part of groups before. They weren't therapy groups, but there's therapy groups, AA and other types of groups that have shared trauma, for example. Or there's one-on-one therapy and stuff like that. And traditionally, they are talk therapy modalities. There's lots of other kinds, and how my response or observation to that, or personal response, I should just speak for myself, is like, now I'm listening to everybody else's crap. So I've got my own crap. And now I'm totally distracted by Fred, Sally, and Susie's crap. And their thing, whatever is triggering me even more to no end.
Mm,
That's my personal experience. So
mm.
I would like to have, and I will still investigate what other therapies may or may not work for me and during this detox period, and like my connectivity with food, my emotional experience with food, especially because that's a challenge for me right now with what's going on with my health, like how to make peace with all of that and work with it, not against it.
Well, I just want to say one thing that I think has been my experience, which is slightly different. So I have been in those, and I'm not going to label them whatever, groups that the conversation sounds very much the same year after year.
Ah,
There's not a level of growth or distinction or, something to like an expansion. It just feels like a stuck place. It's talking about and I have definitely benefited from groups that they talk and they share with the intention that that person and anybody listening is growing, not
mhm.
with so if they share something, it's not like, give me pity, give me your, sympathy or something like that. It's like, reflect back to me something that I don't see for myself and help me grow. And those I've had some of the biggest breakthroughs, watching someone work, right? Getting some growth and some coaching. And by listening to them, I see something that I'm doing inside of my world or something that relates. It can't even be the same thing. Like some guy's working on, I don't know, his relationship with his girlfriend, and I'm over here like, oh my God, my boss, something like that. Like it can
Yeah.
be that disparate, but you can see how. So I think there are groups that can not, be up to stuff, and that can be one way, but there are groups that if they're up to something, expansion, growing you, then they can be very beneficial.
Well, let's just point out that you're creating one. It's called the Come Alive, and it's gonna be a real thing. Like
Yeah.
these
Yeah,
group or this community will be facilitated in this way.
exactly.
So it's being created, and you're right, they do exist. Sorry to poo-poo on that, but
No, no,
I
no,
just don't
but you're
want people
right.
to feel trapped that like that's what it is. And if it didn't work, there's nothing. There's so
And
many.
that's it. So like keep looking for the group, right? Like so
Yeah.
I too, like I walked in this group and I was like, boy, this feels like the conversation that is going to not take me anywhere. I'm not going to be growing, uplifted
Yeah.
or whatever. And then you get into a group and an environment where things are popping and, ideas and expansion is happening, personal growth. It's like that's where you want to be, going for it. Okay.
Okay, so what is NLP? NLP,
Boy, I'm not sure I'm prepared to answer that big of, but
neuro.
neuro-linguistic programming, NLP, was founded, I want to say 30 years ago. Brindler and someone else. It's like the short little snippet for Instagram or whatever is like it's the study of success. Okay. What the hell is that? I was like, what is that? So what they did is they actually studied psychologists who were having success with their patients and discovered what was working. Like, how are you getting these results for your patients? Where like all these other therapists, psychologists, whatever, were not. And they took these techniques, these strategies, whatever, and then they fine-tuned them and perfected them. And it's like there's a tech. So like this one that we'll go over today is like this is something that works, that has worked, and some people apply it, and they just created a body of work and called it NLP and brought them all together, right? And it's fascinating. And it's a really deep dive because these psychologists spent their whole life studying the mind and how people think and where do we store the trauma and where does how do we unpack it and how do we break, the bonds that a belief or a trauma can have upon us, right? And all it is basically it's bodies of energy. Like a memory is, if we look at a computer, it's zeros and ones, right?
Mhm.
Like there's nothing in a computer, it's zeros and ones on a disk or something like that somewhere, right?
Yeah.
But we look at it and you pop up a computer and you go, oh, look, there's a pretty picture and there's a mouse and there's things to do and programs. It's like, well, inside of you is lots of stored energy in the form of smells and sights and sounds and experiences, the emotions that you had in your body, and they get stored. They get stored, right? And
Mhm,
so that's where the trauma comes from, is that initial moment of something happening, some moment, some experience, something we made up, something we heard, something someone said to us, whatever. It can be an impact physically. I mean, you could be abused, hurt,
mhm. Oh,
fall, have a car accident, traumatic, whatever,
they
get your
call
arm.
those the capital T traumas.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And so that is stored in the body and stored in the mind through these memory banks, right? And in NLP, They have a masterful way. It would be too complex to try and describe the whole thing. Maybe in future episodes we can go into little snippets of it. But really, it's the mind stores things in pictures and videos, and it stores them in specific places. So you guys are hearing me, you're not seeing me, but if you were seeing me, it's like there's like a movie screen in front of us, if you will. And our memories are stored in certain places, like on a picture frame. Like we put them in places and we make them a certain size and we, categorize them, and it's just fascinating. But
Colorize them.
and we all do it a little bit differently. So
Mm.
it's not like, oh, Samantha, you know what? I know your memory is going to be over here at 9 o'clock in your memory. So if you look up at 9 o'clock, you're going to see that memory and it's going to be right here about 3 feet from you and it's going to be vivid and whatever. It might not be. It might be lower left at 6 p.m., 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock and it's darker or, kind of faint and maybe it's not. Some people put them in white picture frames or black picture frames, and some people it's just kind of fuzzy edges. Whatever. It's however the memories that your mind, how it stores it.
Mm.
So it's,
So fascinating.
dude,
That's
that
so
when I was
fascinating.
studying NLP, I was just like, are you kidding me? Is this really what our brain is doing? And it's like, yep, over and over again. And when you see a master like Tony Robbins on the stage, he's so reading your face because you are giving away so many signals by where your eyes go and what you're looking at of like where you're storing things. Like, well, it's, I mean, we think about this with what are they like lie detector people, like people that
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
facial recognition and they can tell like if someone's lying and stuff like that. Same thing. It's
Mm-hmm.
like
Mm-hmm.
the face gives away what the mind is thinking, what the body is like it's sending it. So it's linked
Wild.
to that. It's similar to that, similar kind of studies, if you will.
So, in learning this as a tool and practicing it with other humans and yourself, of course, over time, what's like the basics? Don't take us through the advanced course. Like right now, you're getting a freaking master's degree in this, literally at Landmark. But take us through the basics for the listener and myself who are new to this.
Well, you tell me if this is the basic or I can like simplify it. So basically, so what I want to share with you is one example for myself is where a memory got stored, a little T trauma, something happened between interchange with my mom and I, stored it as a little picture. When I think of that memory, it hurts, like like I have anger towards my mom or disgruntled or whatever. Like it brings back up the energy that was stored in that moment when that thing happened. And it's about transforming that, right? And so
Mm,
that thing that got stored, like, I mean, if we think about how many times, like if you were like, how you have your phone and like you want to take a couple pictures of like, oh, like you're taking pictures of your friends and you're like, oh, let me take three of them and I'll delete the one that, or I'll keep one, right?
hmm.
Your mind is literally doing that your whole
Oh,
life
yeah.
throughout the day, right? And what your
Hmm.
brain does literally, so this is a little more NLP and hypnosis, is what's happening with that massive database that your brain is taking all those pictures and videos is when you sleep, if you get 3 series of REM sleep, right? You go into that deep REM, one of those is to delete old files. It's
Mm.
clipping and pruning the videos that it doesn't think you need to remember, right? And so that's
Oh, then most of us need to go to sleep for a very long time.
well, that's where, you get the sleep disruption and
Oh,
where you can't literally like think straight and you can't take in more information or you're just like a zombie. It's because the brain didn't sort of reset back to zero and it's like, okay, let's start the movie camera again. It's like, nope, don't have any more on this reel to take in,
well,
right?
you don't have any more space, just like your damn computer or your phone. Like you're out of gigabytes. No go.
Yeah, add some more storage. Yeah. Get some fucking sleep, and that's what it's telling you.
Totally. Totally.
And yeah. So anyway, so the technique is about taking these old memories that got stored, right? So like that
Like
one.
walk us through one, take us
Okay.
through an experience if you want to use you and your mom. You don't
Yep,
have to. You
yep.
can use
No, no,
anything.
no. This is perfect because it
Let's
doesn't have
do it.
it doesn't have the trigger on me anymore because I already did this. But I'll
Okay.
explain to you what I did because I did this years ago. So picture, I'm in my parents' house. This is one of those like came back to live with mom. And I was going to grad school, so I'm in the bedroom on my bed. Mom walks in the through the door, yelling at me about something. To be honest, because I've already recreated this and transformed it, I don't remember the nature, but I do remember the experience. So sitting there, yelling at me and whatever. And I was like, whoa, right? So that experience, I can hear the voice. I feel the like kind of tension or the sweat in my body, like, want to fight this. The loud voices, the screeching, insults that were said, all that stuff. So what happens? So with this technique is, so if someone says, okay, well, remember a time when this reminds you of something, right? So like I bring this picture up. And so for me, it was like front and center. It was about 2 feet in front of me. I could see the picture of her walking in, but I could still see the room. It wasn't just like her isolated, like a person standing there. Like I could see her in the doorway. I could see the room. I could see the bed and my feet on the bed. And, she's standing there. And so the technique is that is stored in a certain distance from me. So here's the beauty of one of the things that you can do with NLP is just by transforming a few of the spatial things with this picture. So if you have a memory and it's stored, if it's like kind of close to you, like this one's like about 2 feet away, if I just say bring it closer and make it brighter. So if I say, okay, you're like holding it or you've got that picture frame and I say like make it closer and make it brighter, I would feel more upset in my
Mm-hmm.
body. Like I would
Mm-hmm.
be like, she's fucking up in my face now. Like we're gonna go to head here, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
Vivid,
she's
vivid.
she's really letting me have it, right? Or I could make it dimmer. So I just like dim the lights on the scene and I just push her away and I make it further and further away. So like she's like a mile away. I don't feel anything in that moment. I don't even feel her. It's like can't even see her there, right? That kind of a thing.
I
So
love
that
the way you described one of them, which was to make it black and white.
yeah.
Oh, damn. That just really for me was a great visual transformational moment to think of something being so vivid and colorized and so loud to being muted or black and white.
Yeah, so you change the perspective, like how far away the distance, let's say, like is it really super close? Like we'll just make it smaller, make it further away.
Hmm.
If it's like bright and vivid and bold, well, okay, we'll just kind of blur it,
Hmm.
or
Hmm.
make it black and white, right? Just kind of turn it into neutrals or tones. And then, just make it smaller. Like all just in doing that, you'd be amazed where how your relationship to that trauma, that experience could be.
Before we go on, thinking back about how your brain takes these experiences and puts them into this library that eventually runs out of space,
So, yeah.
it helps people understand why they do what they do.
Mm.
So when you're trying to know yourself as a person, this is what personal growth work is. Who the hell am I? Why do I do the things I do? And how can I do them differently?
Well, we can go into a whole episode about how this all creates your identity.
Exactly. But just from the basics is do you ever wonder why you operate under the operating system that you have?
Yeah.
And this is a big reason for people to understand rather than to carry guilt and shame and all this heaviness around being broken
Mm.
or not really having the life that they deserve. There are reasons that you operate the way you operate. The more you can understand these reasons, the more compassion you have for yourself and the more understanding you have about yourself as a human being.
Well, and I want to even be like, if we just hold it true to NLP, it's not even reasons, it's just where you've stored those memories, which one you're recalling most, which ones are bigger and brighter.
Okay.
So
Okay.
for example, I was doing this a little bit recently in the study of like characteristics that we describe ourselves. So let's say if somebody were to ask you like, do you see yourself as a compassionate person? Instantly your mind like finds its library. It has a database wherever it stores it spatially. A lot of times it's kind of like on the side of you. Like if I said, well, how do you know you're a compassionate person? Like you will have this little picking card or something. Everybody does it a little differently, but you'll be like, oh, there was that time.
Examples.
And there was that time. Yeah. Yeah. Right. And what happens if
Or
we don't,
building a case. Let me
girl,
show you my 10 reasons
well, this is how identities get created is we give ourselves
unconsciously.
unconsciously. Yes. Or you can't, girl, all this stuff is like what do they call it?
Subconscious.
About success, right?
Mm-hmm.
Strategies for success. Like this, you can build this. Like if you
Mm-hmm.
want to see yourself as more compassionate, pull up
Mm,
those damn like pull up, you were probably compassionate a lot more than you're remembering, right? But if we like had you really go back, like, oh yeah, and oh yeah, right? And you can build that. You can notice times when you are being compassionate and then like store that memory, like reward yourself for, because when we have an inverse relationship to a self-concept, right? If it's like we see ourselves less than other people see us or, right? It's because we're diminishing or we're sort of hiding from ourselves all those times when we were that, right?
exactly.
So that
And
we
we're
don't
focused instead on the others.
yeah, we make this big old pile of I'm a turd and I'm an asshole to people or I don't care whatever. We make that front and center and that's the most important. Where we've got this library of oh yeah, you remember that time you did that with your aunt and you remember you took care of that and and no, we can hide it from ourselves. So it's all available, right? And
Mm,
it's just noticing how we got it stored. So there's work that so when we talk about therapy, this is part of how you can work with an NLP practitioner to transform existing memories. I'm not even
mm-hmm.
talking about, like one of the things we're going to talk about is like transforming a memory,
Mm-hmm.
but these are existing memories and you just aren't recalling them. So like going in and making them and then put a like have them as like a deck of cards and you just look at them all the time like I'm like a really lovely person and I do great things for people and look at it, I did this but we
That's a cool art project, dude. You got to have that for Come Alive. Everybody builds their own deck of cards. I freaking love this.
that's really cool. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let me just share this other, part of, I shared about NLP with the taking the image and making it small. But here's another one that this is how I did it with that particular memory. That's why this memory doesn't feel so charged for me. So I took I actually kind of made it like in the moment. I said that, I could see the whole room, but it felt like a little bit like a tarot card, right? Like, so it was like a little tarot card in front of me and my mom was the character, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so picture, mom, whatever she was wearing in this little tarot card. And what I did, so, and this is through prompting, right? You can write some of these down and prompt yourself or whatnot. So it's okay, take the original memory and like see it there, right? And it might be like a little mini movie. Maybe it's a 10-second or a 3-second thing that she did and whatever. Or it could just be a still thing. Like I remember the moment when this happened.
Mm,
So you take that and you see it like you see it, right? Same size, like it was out in front of me about 2 feet, little tarot card thing with my mom on it. And she's, kind of blah, 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 blah. And then change the volume. Like all of a
mm.
sudden I'm playing like I did the whole card and like the whole thing. It's just okay, it's a circus theme. So like all of a sudden my mom's a clown, the little toy car music's playing in the background and like
Yeah.
little uh, dogs are jumping around or whatever. And it's like, oh, mom's a little clown in a circus theme, right? And then, okay, cancel that, right? Next one, oh, psychedelic, right? Like it's all wavy and groovy and, change the colors, looks like tie dye. And I'm like, wow, this is all groovy. What's mom up to, And then next one, just the black and white, right? Like just make it black and white and turn the volume down. Like she's not
Mm-hmm.
even saying anything, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and then I think the last one I did was Disneyland. I was like, I'm at Disneyland and mom's Mickey Mouse. She's like, "Meep," with like little ears and she's talking like Minnie Mouse and tee, 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 whatever. And I was like, huh. Well, what happens in the brain is it now has like 5 versions
Of the same story,
of that moment.
of that moment. Mm-hmm.
And so when and it's like, okay, so, clear all of that, go back and try and remember that experience. It has like
Yeah.
zero charge. Like I can see my mom standing in the hallway, but I don't see her yelling at me. I don't, like I'm not upset, not hurt, whatever. Just like
Mm.
that. Just like
Wow.
that.
Wow.
So that is like therapy you can freaking use, do something with. It does take 7 years
Exactly.
to do that.
You can do it by yourself. You can do it for free. You can do it with another person. You can do it obviously with a practitioner,
Yeah,
right?
do this all the time.
Yeah,
Like,
if these are really deep, capital T, capital L letter traumas, like obviously do this in
yeah,
therapy with another licensed practitioner.
yes.
That's important. But like
Call
there's
me.
so many things
Yeah.
that the any day average human can be like, I just don't understand this piece of why I do what I do with this relationship or
Hmm.
environment or whatever. Let me just take a look at it.
Well,
Take a look at it.
and this can help people a lot, I think, in those day-to-day relationships,
Interactions, yeah.
whether it's your boss, your kids, your spouse,
Hmm.
had some friendship, some things didn't go well. Like, take some moments of that, right? And,
Hmm.
you have to want to change. You have to want to grow from this, right? Um, capital T traumas, from childhood or, big things that happen to you. Yeah, that might be something that you work more with a practitioner, but little things like, you had a little spat about the dishes, or you had a spout about them not returning your phone call or not texting you or something like that. Like, totally recreate that with, change that picture, change that memory for yourself. And you'll just have like I said, you can take these self-concept ones and hide the good from yourself. Your relationship is going really well. You can hide all that good stuff. And you
Hmm.
just pick a couple of cards out there and you look at those dirty cards every day. And it's like your relationship is going to look like that, right?
You know what I see and hear a lot? I'm sure I've done this. That's probably why I'm so good at seeing and hearing it in others now. Oh, yeah, I recognize that pattern. That's fun. Is people literally build a case
Mhm.
uh, for and on behalf of their story, their identity,
Mhm.
right? So it's like use the spouse as an example or a coworker or whatever, right? Like they're building a case against that. They think it's against that person. Like, see
Mhm.
all the things I've been accumulating, all of these things. I'm building a case against Fred, right?
Yeah.
This is why I'm going to divorce Fred because I built a case for 10 years. Or this is why I'm not going to do business with this guy or that
Yeah.
whatever. You talk to my sister anymore.
Mm.
I
Mm.
mean, we see this shit all the freaking time.
Mm.
First of all, let's just deal with the reality is you're not building a case against them at all. You're only hurting yourself.
Mhm.
And through NLP, how would you unpack this need to continue to support that trauma? Literally, they're like stacking the traumas, if you will, is how I'm kind of perceiving when they're building the case
Mm.
against supposedly another.
Well, that goes into, I think, more. So this program that I'm in is all about communication, right? So we have constant failures of breakdowns in communication,
Hmm.
right? We're
Totally.
not,
All day long.
I talked about recreating. Well, it's a whole process that we learn, but it's basically getting in the other person's world and listening and understanding and keeping these lines of communication. So how I've been in my past relationships, I understand big distinctions now where everything can be resolved in through and in communication, right? And either so there's this whole, like I said, these courses that we took, it's like there's typically like 7 to 10 ways of protecting ourselves or
Hmm.
ultimately, but they're actually disempowering. So
Totally.
we're protecting ourselves, we're defending our position, we're judging the other all these little things that we're doing in that moment.
Building the case.
Yeah, that just like leave us powerless instead of like
Totally.
like we start withholding communication. We start like, oh, I can't tell him that, or I can't tell her that, and like
That can't be me.
we're not self-expressed.
Hmm.
Totally. So any of that stuff, like that's like the fertile ground for the breakdown in the relationship because the communication isn't flowing. It's not authentic. It's not honest. It's not you're not being heard and that person, you're like rejecting that person in a moment for something they said instead of like getting in their world and you don't have to always agree with it but getting it, right? Get the communication even if you don't agree with it, like we
For
were.
yourself.
Yes.
It's for yourself, for your own personal benefit. It's not giving away a piece of yourself through that experience to the other, giving them more power. It's
Right.
empowering
It
you.
is. It
Hmm.
is, so, and it's not to say, when what we're taught some things is like it's not becoming a doormat.
No.
It's not becoming a doormat. It is, you can create boundaries, absolutely. And it's not staying around and hanging around in places where you're not treated well either. These are not those things, right? It's just getting the communication and communicating back, like receiving it and sending it, receiving it and sending it instead of, protecting and "Oh, can't hear that, can't hold those words or can't say those things around me, So yeah,
You know
maybe.
what I love about this NLP? I know this is very foundational, what you walked us through, but like it gives me the power and the control to process this, think through this, and change this for myself. I don't need the other person. They
Yeah,
don't need to be there. I don't need to talk to them. They're not even part of it at all.
right.
So that's also an incredible freedom for many people. A lot of these triggering humans or places are not places they want to re-enter. They're not relationships they want to re-engage in at this
Mhm,
moment, or maybe never.
mhm.
And we have total respect for that. We're not saying you need to go in. There are therapies where they're like, go in, confront the person, write them a letter. That's just a whole other way of being. That's not at all what we're talking about here, or what we're saying is going to heal you. This is about you doing it your way, under your
Well,
terms.
well, all the hurt lives inside of us.
Exactly.
So
On an energetic cellular level.
the trauma is in us, so it's the healing of our own trauma. It's setting ourselves free. It's not making
Mhm.
wrong, justifying whatever for the other person. What I just shared was a way for us to heal ourselves, like set
Yeah.
ourselves free from something that got stored from a memory that, I made this up, like, right?
Yeah, you didn't have to go to your mom and be like, "Why did you yell at me when I was laying on the bed?" Yeah.
And there's times when sure, like you need to clear up some communication or whatnot, right? But if you lived in a parent-child relationship, there's fighting, like there's some level of
How
that to
about
degree.
any human?
Yeah.
Some
So
of
it's
them are
like,
actually doing it in real life, verbally, and some are just doing it internally.
yeah, yeah. And
There's conflict
yeah, but it's if I hadn't resolved that, then there's this lingering inside of me towards my mom.
inside of you.
Yeah, it lives
Exactly.
inside of me, right? So it
Exactly.
doesn't say she's justified for coming in and blowing her top at me, right? But the hurt, the memory was stored inside of me. The hurt, the trauma, little T trauma was inside of me. And it was up, and I know, but she wasn't gonna free me. I had to free myself.
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah. So I hope that's, gives people an idea of, just one technique. And, by all means, like look into NLP has many more techniques. That's just one of the simple ones. And I think it's so powerful too. You can, this, I was saying in Landmark, we're doing this recreating, which is recreating that conversation with somebody that can help free you from the trauma and the triggers in that moment. You can do this with the pictures of your memories of your past, just the same through NLP. So,
Mhm. And there are people that are practitioners of this that can be there to help you learn this technique and do it with you.
mhm,
Just like there are therapies and therapists, there's so much out there and available to
mhm.
people, as apparently I've just learned in the last week, that there's like all these other things out in the world now that people can be resourcing. Find something that works for you. And also, I just really want to, like, in closing, just say, don't give up on the
Mm,
process, because the process is you, the work is you.
mm,
And so, what I've witnessed with many people, and I could have even had this experience myself recently, is like, it's can be complicated, and I don't know where to go and who to call and how to navigate the process, and how do I pay for it, and is there insurance, and does anyone actually give a shit, and by the way, am I worthy of this?
mm,
And
mm,
next thing you know, we've done nothing.
mm.
That's not acceptable to
It's
me.
not okay. And this moment and this memory that I shared was, I would say, light
Hmm.
compared to some, but people are walking around with all kinds of
Big stuff.
big stuff.
Big
So
stuff.
please, whether you heard something in this that you want to practice, and I encourage you to just try it.
Hmm.
You heard some, go back and listen to this again and how to do it and what to do it. You will be amazed how effective this is. It's not just like, oh, sure. It's like, yeah, no, it does. This is how your brain works. This is a freaking science. This is how it works. So
Hmm.
help yourself. Go do some little self-healing, right? So
Hmm.
I like it. And
Okay.
what's our one thing? What's our last thing that we want to leave people with?
Well, my one thing is to take some action. And if it doesn't feel like something you can take on your own, whether it's a big T or a little t trauma, then pick up the phone and make a connection. There's humans like us, there's humans all over the globe these days that can
Mhm.
be resourced depending on what your needs are. But you are more than worthy of this process and working through this and fully releasing yourself and becoming the best person that you can be for yourself, not for the world, but for yourself.
Wholeheartedly agree. It's like, don't sit with those stories, those traumas inside of you. If it's something that is showing up in your outer life,
Mhm.
like for me, like I said, this moment on Monday, I was like, oh, I got hurt by a communication. It's like, oh, that's still inside of me. Okay, there's some work to do, right?
Mhm.
And there's so many modalities. It doesn't have to be NLP and you have to figure this out and do it exactly like this. Maybe talk therapy, maybe group therapy, whatever. But like find what works for you. Get into action. I love it.
Action. All
Okay,
right, lady.
beautiful.
Why? Because how your life feels is more important than how it looks.
Yeah, and every day is your opportunity to find your awesome.